Hello students, welcome to your video class, and today we are going to study your English subject, the book Moments, lesson number 3, Ishwaran the storyteller, written by R.K. Lakshman. So students, in English we have read in this book 2 chapters. As I told you, this Moments book is full of enjoyment and beautiful stories which gives some lesson to you and some new experience of life. Through the stories we get some moral values, we learn some moral things, and stories gave us a good message to lead a life or do something better in our life, and some good manners and etiquettes. Students, in this story, first chapter was your first chapter was the lost child, and the second was for the adventures of Toto. These 2 chapters we have done. And today we are going to start with the 3rd chapter, that is Ishwaran the storyteller. Students, you must have heard the stories in your life from your family members. Like, I tell you, in childhood, my granny, great maternal granny and granny, my grandfather used to tell me many stories. Sometimes when we were small kids, so they used to tell the stories, and we all family members, all kids in the house get together around the granny, and she used to tell the stories, very beautiful stories of ghosts, the kings, the animals, mostly about the jungle, and something like the kings and queens, and some other type of animals. So in your family you must have heard the stories from your grandparents, especially your granny and your maternal granny. You must have listened any story, but I tell you, these days, because of the mobile and media and other ways of communication, this method of telling stories is disappearing from our lives. Otherwise, in the past, people used to spend time, used to learn through the stories. You must have heard about the Panchtantra ki kahaniyan, the stories of Panchtantra, Tenali Ram's story, Akbar Birbal's story. There were many characters and many such ways of stories. We used to enjoy them at nights, and very beautiful time we spent. But unfortunately, now these things have disappeared from our lives. But obviously now you see the kids, the children, not listening the stories from the grannies and great grandfather and great grandmothers, but you can see them watching these stories on the mobile screen. Definitely those old stories children enjoy on the phone now. Yes, and definitely I don't say they are not helpful. Children learn many good manners, many good things, many good values from the mobiles also. But it depends on the person or the child what he watches on mobile. So students, this is a story, Ishwaran the storyteller, and I tell you, storytelling is not everybody's cup of tea. Everyone cannot tell the stories. There must be a style of expressing the things. When someone tells the story, he brings everything alive. When telling the story means, when someone narrates the story, it means everything is happening in front of our eyes. That is called the real storyteller. When things you see in front of your eyes, but they are not in front of you, but created the scene in the storytelling that makes, thrilling, exciting. And that art is not with everyone, I tell you. So I tell you, I take you back to the past when there was no smartphones. There people used to listen the stories from mouth to mouth, from one person to the other person. So in this chapter, Ishwaran is the name of the character. Or he is a storyteller, very impressive storyteller. Some people are very talkative when they tell the stories. Really, they bring the chain of the series, and one after one events they tell in such a way that you just see that everything is happening in front of your eyes. Definitely, you will read Ishwaran is such a storyteller. When he narrates the story, people are spellbound to listen to him and they enjoy him very much. So students, let's read this story and how Ishwaran tells the story and what is the story he tells in this chapter. Let's enjoy and go ahead. So this starts with this chapter, and let's go. One night, this is now you people see the trailers of the movies or the teasers of the movies. So this is the trailer of this story. So you can be attracted to this story with this trailer. One night, Mahendra woke up from his sleep and saw a dark, cloudy form. He broke out into a cold sweat. What it was it a ghost? Let's see now. The story was narrated to Ganesh by a young man. The storyteller, Mahendra by name. His name was Mahendra. He was a junior supervisor in a firm which offered on hire supervisors at various type of construction sites and factories, bridges, dams, and so on. Mahendra's job was to keep an eye on the activities at work site, and he had to keep moving from one place to place to place every now and then. Every now and then, this is a phrase I tell. Now and then, now and then. Mostly, after period of interval. So, ordered by his head office, as ordered by his head office. So, Mahendra was a supervisor and he was in a construction company, and as his office ordered him, he had to go from one place to other place for the job, and as the company or the office ordered. So now and then he all moved from one place to other place, from a coal mining area to a railway bridge construction site. And you see construction, when there is construction on the road, then some canal, some railway, and some coal mining. So construction, wherever there was construction work, Mahendra moved to that place. Mahendra is the name of character in this story. From there, after a few months, to a chemical plant which was coming up somewhere. So this way Mahendra used to go from one place to other place, and he used to do his work of supervising, and he used to see the activities at the site, what the work was going on. He was a bachelor, was not married. His needs were simple and was able to adjust himself to all kinds kinds of odd conditions. So he was alone, so he could live in odd condition. Wherever he was sent by the office, he easily and happily went to that place because he had no problem. He was adjustable to all the odd conditions. Odd conditions, you know, the conditions which are not favorable to you. So he could live in all type of odd conditions. Whether it was an ill-equipped circuit house, a place where guests are kept, guests live for some days and they stay there, or a makeshift canvas tent. Makeshift, very beautiful word, makeshift, just for some time what we make, that is makeshift tent. You see, when people go to the distance areas, when there is no house, so they make the tent there and they temporarily live there for work in the middle of the stone quarry. But one asset he had was his cook, Ishwaran. So Mahendra was supervisor. He moved from one place to other place every now and then, and he had one asset he never changed. That was his cook, and his name was Ishwaran. The cook was quite attached to Mahendra, very attached, very familiar, because he had been working with him for a long time, and followed him uncomplainingly wherever he was posted. So he always went with Mahendra. Wherever Mahendra was posted, Ishwaran went with him uncomplainingly, without any complaint, without any question, because he was attached to Mahendra very much. And he cooked for Mahendra. He was cook, so he cooked food for Mahendra, washed his clothes and chatted away with his master at night. He could wave out endless stories, wave, you know, like you wave sweater, you wave jacket, so wave endless stories and anecdotes, old ancient story on varied subjects, you know, different subjects. He knew the stories and he used to tell Mahendra. He was a good, Ishwaran was a very excellent storyteller, I say you. Ishwaran also had an amazing capacity to produce vegetables and cooking ingredients seemingly out of nowhere in the middle of a desolate landscape with no shops visible for miles around. He would miraculously conjure up the most delicious dishes made with fresh vegetables within an hour of arriving at the zinc sheet shelter at the new workplace. So really he had an amazing capacity to produce vegetables and cooking ingredients seemingly out of nowhere. So really he was very amazing storyteller, that he could produce vegetables, cooking and ingredients out of nowhere, and there could not see any tree, any vegetable plant, but he could produce the vegetables, and he could miraculously conjure up when any, you know, a magician conjure up, he spells some magic, he chants some mantras like they do, and things appear in front of you. That's conjure up some mantras, and he used to bring the things, delicious dishes with the fresh vegetables within an hour of arriving at the zinc sheet shelter at the new workplace. Wherever they went, he was amazing cook. So he could prepare good dishes, like a magician conjure up and brings the things in hands in few seconds. Like that, he could bring the vegetables and dishes of fresh vegetables in 1 hour of arriving at a new place. That was his skill. Mahendra would be up early in the morning. He got up very early morning and leave for work after breakfast, carrying some prepared food with him. Meanwhile, Ishwaran would tie up the shed, wash the clothes, and have leisurely baths, pouring several buckets of water over him, his head, and muttering a prayer all the while. All the while, it would be lunchtime by then. After eating, he would read for a while before dozing off, and the book was usually some popular Tamil thriller running to hundreds of pages. Its imaginative descriptions and narrative flourishes would hold Ishwaran in thrall. Enthrall means shocking, shivered. So Mahendra would go to the office at the workplace, and after breakfast, and he took food with him, and after that Ishwaran used to wash the dishes, wash the clothes, and then he used to take bath, and while taking bath, pouring buckets and buckets of water, he always used to muttering a prayer all the while, moving hand and then prepare lunch, and before dozing he would read story books, Tamil story, thrilling, very horror type of books he used to read, and then he used to the type of books that kept him enthralled. His own descriptions were greatly influenced by the Tamil authors that he read. So he used to read the story books, Tamil stories, thrilling stories. So he used to describe the scene in such a way that the people, the listener would spellbound to listen to him, and they thought the things were happening in front of the eyes. So he learned all these from the Tamil authors, the people who wrote the books, story books. When he was narrating even a smallest of incident, he could narrate a smallest of incident in a big way. He would try to work in suspense. He used to keep suspense in the stories, like you see in the movie Suspense. So he used to create suspense in stories while telling, and a surprise ending into account, and people used to surprise at the end of the story. For example, instead of saying that he had come across an uprooted tree on the highway, suppose, instead of saying that he had come across an uprooted tree on the highway, how he would say? See, he would say, with eyebrows suitably arched, and hands held out in a dramatic gesture, and the road was deserted and I was all alone. Suddenly, I spotted something that looked like an enormous bushy beast lying sprawled across the road. So there was a simple line that there was a tree uprooted on the road, but how he would tell? With suitably eyebrows arched and open arms, and he would say in such a way, he would create the scene for that I was all alone, and suddenly I spotted something that looked like an enormous bushy beast, very dangerous beast on the road, lying sprawled across the road, and I was half inclined half inclined to turn and go back, seeing that beast. But as I came closer, I saw that it was a fallen tree. Oh, really? So in such a way he would narrate the story, he would describe the scene. Definitely. Very good at telling the stories. Excellent. With its dry branches spread out, Mahendra would stretch himself back in his canvas chair and listen to the Ishwaran's tales uncritically. And with Mahendra would stretch himself back. Mahendra used to listen stories. He would stretch him back in his canvas chair and listen to Ishwaran's tales uncritically, without making any critical note or speaking anything. He would listen to him. The place I come from is famous for timber. Famous for timber. Ishwaran would begin. So he would start how he tells the stories. Let's enjoy. There is a receive wooded forest all around. The logs are hauled on to the lorries by elephants. They are huge, well-fed beasts. When they turn wild, even the most experienced mahout is not able to control them. After this prologue, Ishwaran would launch into an elaborate anecdote involving an elephant. So he used to tell that the place where we come from, that is famous for timber, and there for loading the wood log to the lorries, they use elephants to load the logs, big logs. And this way Ishwaran would start the story, and launching this scene, he would come to an elephant that sometimes if the elephants go mad, even experienced mahout, the person who controls elephants, so that person is called mahout. Mahout sometimes cannot control the elephant, so he would narrate the story in this way. One day a tusker is called tusker, elephant. So how he started this story, let's enjoy. One day a tusker escaped from a timber yard, ran away, and began to roam about, stamping on the bushes, that elephant, and tearing up wild creepers, and breaking branches at will, by force. And sir, he would used to make this discourse marker. And sir, how an elephant behaves when it goes mad? Oh, really? Ishwaran would get so caught up in the excitement of his own story that he would get up from the floor and jump about. And while telling the story, he could stand up and jump about, stamping his feet in emulation of the mad elephant. Emulation, the copy, he used to copy like how a mad elephant stamp on the bushes. Ishwaran used to stand up and emulate the mad elephant, like he is mad elephant. He used to behave like mad elephant. So such was the way, his way to explain the story. The elephant reached the outskirts of the town, the outer area of the town. So his story is going on. So just listen very carefully. Breaking the fences down like the matchsticks. So elephant, broke the fence of the town like matchsticks. How matchsticks? We break the matchsticks. He gone mad. He would continue. It came into the main road. It came into the main road and smashed all the stalls selling fruits, mud pots and clothes. So that elephant came on the main road, and there he smashed, crashed all the vegetable shops, sports shops, clothes shops, smashed everything there. People ran helter-skelter in panic, helter-skelter here and there, helter-skelter here and there in panic, in fear. People ran here and there. Just imagine a mad elephant comes to your place, in your area, in your street, and that is very dangerous looking. So what people would do, they would run here and there, definitely. The elephant now entered a school ground where children were playing, and you can think, if any mad elephant comes to your school, what would happen if these children are playing in the ground outside and all of a sudden a mad elephant enters the school? What would happen? You can just think and imagine, otherwise Ishwaran would tell what happened there. Entered a school ground where children were playing, breaking through a brick wall. And breaking through a brick wall, all the boys ran into the classrooms and shut the doors tight. All children ran to the classrooms and shut the door tight. The beast grunted, made the cry, the noise, when it is very angry, and wandered about here and there, pulling out the football goal post. First he did what? Pulled out the football goal post, tearing down the volleyball net, tearing down the volleyball net, kicking and flattening the drum kept for water. And the water drum, it kicked that drum and flattened, and uprooting the shops. There some shops and vegetables, plants were there, so uprooted them. Meanwhile, all the teachers had climbed up to the terrace of the school building. All the teachers climbed up to the terrace of the school building. Everyone went upstairs. From there, they helplessly watched the depredations of the elephants. Depredations, what the activities he was doing in such a way, which activities he was doing. People were watching then. Depredations, which are made to destroy something. So the elephant was wandering here and there and hitting all the things and making destruction and destroying all around. So the teachers went upstairs, the terrace, and they were helplessly, what they could do, helplessly watching. And there was not a soul below. No soul below. No one was there on the ground floor. The streets were empty, as if the inhabitants of the entire town had suddenly disappeared. And streets were empty. How he tells now? Streets were empty, that looked like, or as if the inhabitants, the people who lived there, had suddenly disappeared from the town. Nobody was there. Silent and deserted street. Everyone locked themselves to the houses. So this way he tells the story and goes on, and it was studying the junior class at that time. And junior class was studying and was watching the whole drama from the rooftop. I don't know what came over me suddenly. He is telling his story. And I don't know what came over me suddenly, what came to my mind. I grabbed a cane from the hands of one of the teachers. Ishwaran is telling that I was studying there in junior class, and all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. It came over me. Suddenly, I grabbed a cane from hands of teacher. Teacher keep a cane beating the children. So he grabbed cane from the hands of one of the teachers and ran down the stairs into the open to the ground. The elephant grunted and menacingly, dangerously swung a branch of a tree which it held in its trunk. So he tells that I went into the open with a cane in my hand, and the elephant grunted and threw a branch of tree which it held in its trunk. It stamped its feet very forcefully and stamped feet, kicking up a lot of mud and dust. Kicked the mud and dust. It looked frightening, very dangerous. But I moved slowly towards it. I moved slowly towards it. Who is telling? Ishwaran. He is telling a story of his childhood, that I moved towards it slowly, stick in hand. People were watching the scene, hypnotized. No movement from nearby housetops. The elephant looked at me red-eyed, ready to rush towards me. He was ready to rush towards me, run towards me. It lifted its trunk and trumpet loudly. Lifted its trunk and trumpet made very big noise. At that moment, I moved forward. I moved forward and mustered all my force, gathered all my energy, whacked its third toenail on the quick, and hit its third toenail on the quick. The beast looked stunned, motionless, silent for a moment. Then it shivered from head to foot and collapsed. And then it shivered from head to foot. Because Ishwaran hit on the third toenail, and it was stunned and shivered from head to foot. That was the situation of elephant, that of that mad elephant. So this is the story how he tells. So students, we will enjoy this story in your next video. By the time you read this chapter, find the new words, write the new words in your notebook, and learn them and enjoy. We'll continue with the story with the Ishwaran. I hope you enjoyed this story and the way of telling the story of Ishwaran. So have a good time.